But we're going to the park and we're working on the James Harden step back.
Unguardable, man. It is just ridiculous how he's changing the game. That shot, that step back three is like the dream shake. It's like the sky hook. The step back three is an iconic shot now for James Harden.
30 points in 32 consecutive games.
Just keep putting the records on top of records on top of records.
One of the most remarkable scoring seasons in NBA history.
It's been absolutely incredible to watch, and he did it while driving, winning.
He's just an offensive juggernaut.
Harden trying to get free. Down to three, down to two, it's a three. Go!
What is the most important thing heading into playoffs?
Win. Win.
Thanks, James.
All right, sometimes short and sweet is good. Kevin says, I'm Kevin Durant. James Harden says, win. Well, these are good numbers to help you get there. We know that the leading scorer in the NBA is going to score. He's going to make tough shots. He's going to create. He's going to have impact. Those things are going to happen even if you win. They lost in that series to Golden State, but he did all of those things during the course of the series. But how you defend him, and Vince, I'll start with you. Look, you guys played against him this year. You know that it is not going to be easy. What is your take on the way that Utah decided to kind of almost play off and let him kind of have free roam down the middle? Take a look at some of these highlights as we run.
Well, as long as they don't defend him the way Kent Bazemore did in that highlight. As long as y'all don't do that.
Nope, that's my guy. But they're giving him a runway. Now he can decide what he wants to do. Draw the foul, get in the paint to shoot the floater. I could throw the lob, or I could spray it out to my shooters.
It looks awkward, too.
Exactly.
You say that?
And here's the one thing. You have to speed James Harden up, but in the front court. Like, before you get to half, you want him to play a little faster, then get the ball out of his hands. Once you do that, deny him the ball, because he's a gifted scorer. Obviously, he's a gifted passer as well. So the more he has to be a facilitator, I feel like you give yourself a chance to win. But if you allow him to score at will, get 10 rebounds, and spray the ball out to whoever he wants, you're not going to beat them. You have to take something away from James Harden, that is. And that's, I think, make him get off of the ball early and then try to deny it.
Well, and also, if you're going to use that tactic to jump behind, then that means a third defender has to be involved in the play. So as the drive goes to the basket, the third defender takes Capella away, and now that forces the ball to go out. Now you can retreat and get back. And you cannot be deterred from this style if P.J. Tucker makes a three, if Rivers makes a three, or two.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, if those guys are hot and they make the shots throughout the game into the fourth quarter, you weren't going to win anyway.
Well, you're not as, and here's the thing, right? When you're not as talented a team as the other team, you're going to have to get some luck, right?
Yeah, so when you're playing a team like that, you have to decide, you're going to take your lumps. What can you live with? What can you live
Pick your poison.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you live with a triple-double alert from James Harden? Or can you live with the others of Houston having big nights and not James Harden? I think you live with that.
And you have to, and here's the thing, too. Look, being fair, we were just talking about this off the air because I know they were doing it against Brevins Grizz. Gerald Green has been just destroying teams from three. Yeah. We know Shumpert will hit a three. Obviously, we know that P.J. Tucker can hit some threes. Had 7 at one point this year, which is a career high for him. But you have to do that, right?
I want to see can you make it in crunch time when it matters? Not when the team is up by 10 points, 15 points.
Or the first half.
Exactly. It's the first half of the game. But in the second half of the game, when things get tight, when all of the marbles are now thrown on the table, will those guys consistently make those shots? I know James Harden can make the plays.
And even Chris Paul.
Exactly.
Even Chris Paul.
And here's the thing. We said this. Make no mistake. No matter how they defend James Harden, you don't beat the Rockets scoring 90 points. No, you can't. You will get swept. So Utah's got to find another way to score, and that's their other problem. Because to beat the Rockets like Golden State did or OKC has during the season, you have to get hot from three and kind of do some of the things they do, right? And then get the key stops they don't. For the Jazz, you already know Donovan Mitchell going to have the ball all the time. Ricky Rubio almost playing like a 2. What can they do, Vince, differently to try and create some easier shots for them?
Turnovers. You have to get out in transition. I say it all the time, probably with every team. When you're playing an elite scoring team, if you can defend one bad shot and get out and run, now other guys get involved. You get your three-point shooters involved. You need Kyle Korver to hit shots in transition. You want to get movement because when you're paying attention to a hot Kyle Korver, that opens the things up for your bigs. And your bigs need to have a big night as well on the glass, getting extra possessions, because the more you get extra possessions, the less offensive attempts Houston gets.
And you got to shoot the three well. To beat Houston, you're going to have to hit some
Point
threes.
blank.
End of story. So good luck to Utah in game number 2. We continue to get ready for that. As well as this, the Celtics and Al Horford. What illness? Nothing's going to stop Big Al from getting it done. And all the underrated things he does to help the C's. We get you ready for Tip Pacers and Celtics game 2 in Boston. We look at the upcoming schedule, obviously tonight, if you didn't know, just moments away from game number 2, and then back at it Friday in Indiana. Should be a great atmosphere there. Game 1 went to the Celtics. The third quarter, no. Pacers didn't shoot well, but the defense across the board for the C's was great, led by Jaylen Brown, something Coach Brad Stevens noticed.
Ask you about a different guy in Jaylen. How has his role as a defender evolved over the last year or so in terms of the kind of players he can guard and the things he can do for you?
Yeah, I mean, he's gotten better. He's a guy that initially in his rookie year, we really tried to hone in on certain matchups and just, study the heck out of these guys and be good against trailing screens and being there on the catch and those type of things. Where we've seen big improvement is in directing and pick and rolls and making the ball handler more uncomfortable. You go back to his first year in the playoffs, and that was where he had to improve, and he's worked really hard on it. And the hard part about those guys is they are always guarding the really potent scorers, and so if you take a second off, you'll probably be exposed.
Scott Agness, The Athletic. Brad, have you given yourself a chance to reflect facing the hometown team? You look over at Reggie, whose number you wore, is sitting across the way. Larry's up in the stands. Is that carrying significance?
I mean, it's, I think if I would, I'd say it's surreal, right? Because, you grow up, and I'm an Indiana kid, and that was basketball in that state are really, really important to me. That being said, I kind of stay in this world of focus ahead and focus on what's next, and I'll look back on it after the fact. When we go to Indiana, I'll be holed up in my hotel room and I'll see people in the summer. Like we got a job to do, and so we're really focused on that.
All right, can I call you back?
Yeah. The calling card for the defense in game 1 without their best defender, when you look at what Marcus Smart gives the team, was actually the fact that they played it together. And Jaylen Brown individually stands out. But going back to the question that you asked Reggie, let's get into that, because consistency, continuity, none of those things seem to really be omnipresent throughout the course of the season. Can it happen during the course of a playoff series? The talent has always been there. That's never been the question.
Yeah, I think it can happen because now it becomes really one goal, and the goal is to win the series. And so at this point, they have one thing to focus on. When the season is going on, you got another game. There's different instances that go on. Injuries happen. But now you get to this point, you can see the end game. You don't see the end game during the regular season. And I thought Reg made a big point with, yes, they are missing their big-time defender, but I thought Jaylen Brown, he talked about his length, and as long as he is willing to defend, then he gives them a lot different look on the defensive side.
And to add to that, I mean, it made them look great because they stuck to their defensive concept. Whatever the game plan was defensively, he did it.
Right.
Keep him off the line, push him into the middle of the paint, make him shoot twos. And then now he looks like a great defender. That's what the great defensive teams do. You have your great individual defensive players, but when you have a great team defense, when you have a great player who's a great team defensive player,
right,
he looks great. And when you stick to the game plan, you give yourself a chance to win, especially when you're not scoring a lot of points.
Now, what if the game plan defensively was to have no game plan? Because some in Utah or Houston might be thinking maybe that was the story with James Harden and the very interesting decision on how to defend him-ish. Go, James! Take it to the house. We got Game 2 preview coming up on the other side. It is game 2, Celtics and Pacers, and while he will be on the floor, he won't be suiting up for the Pacers. They could have used him in the third quarter, Reg, where they shot 2 of 19 in game 1. Our own Reggie Miller will be on the call for TNT. Let me start with that. No Victor Oladipo, Reg. We know how big of a piece he was for this team. They've got such good a cast of role players, but how do they get out of that group what they need offensively?
Timely scoring, and it's got to be by committee, but personally, to me, it starts with Bojan Bogdanovic. He's got to be more aggressive. Only 12 points in game 1. Give the Celtics and really Jaylen Brown all the credit. I think Brad Stevens told us going in that normally that defensive assignment would have been drawn by Marcus Smart. He's out, obviously, because of the injury. Brown gets the start. He's much taller, longer than Smart. And he's got a lot of the tricks that Marcus Smart has. So he's getting underneath Bojan, and they're not top locking him. They're forcing him to the middle, and he's doing a good job of staying connected. So Bojan has to be more aggressive offensively. You take away that third quarter for the Pacers where they shot 2 of 19 and only 8 points. They played an excellent game plan. I mean, they only held the Celtics to 84 points on 36% shooting. So the defense was there. They just didn't have any offense. Only 2 Pacers in double figures, and one was Corey Joseph, and he hadn't led the Pacers in scoring in 2 seasons. So that tells you right there that's a problem.
Reg, during the course of the year, the 2 C's, the Celtics and consistency have not gone together much. Brad Stevens knows that. How important is it for this team, not just to win the series, but to come out each game after a win, for example, a game 1 tonight, and to show that they have taken things to a more consistent level of play here in the playoffs?
You saw a little bit of that inconsistency in the first 2 quarters to start this ball game. I thought the Pacers did a great job of kind of going at the Celtics, and it looked like the Celtics were kind of going through the motions a little bit. That physicality showed up in the second half, in particular in that third quarter, and that's the way the Celtics have to play. There was a much more ball movement. They got stops. They got out and ran. They only had 2 fast break points in the first half, 22 in the second half. So their defense fueled their offense. And even though Kyrie didn't have a great shooting night, 6 of 17, only 20 points, to me his overall game was pretty effective. I see the Celtics, if they can continue that ball movement, and Jason Tatum, he's going to have to be a little bit more aggressive offensively. I think they're starting to find that group. And to me, Marcus Morris, 20 points off the bench, he was the X factor in game 1.
Reg, in your opinion, do you think the Pacers need Sabonis and Tariq Evans to have big nights for them to have a chance to win tonight?
Well, obviously, Sabonis is in the running for the 6th man of the year. He won't win it. That'll go to Lou Williams. But his presence, as soon as he comes on, because of his physicality, I thought Brad Stevens and the Celtics did a great job of keeping Aaron Baines, a more physical player, as both of you guys know, keeping Baines on Sabonis and taking that physicality out. They didn't switch a lot, that's where Sabonis, when he gets the switch of those small forwards and power forwards and he can kind of punish them in the post, they took that away, and they kept Baines on him. So they're going to need Sabonis' offense, and you're right. Evans he was only 3 of 11. He's got to be more aggressive. But how about Miles Turner, and how about Thaddeus Young? Those 2 guys offensively, we talked about the Pacers, they are the sum of all their parts. With the Oladipo injury, where he was the go-to guy, he set the table offensively for this Pacers team. It's got to be by committee. So all those guys we mentioned, you just can't have 2 guys score in double figures and only score 74 points. You got to have 5 or 6 guys in double figures where you don't know where the offense is coming from. That's what made this Pacers team so dangerous all season long after the Oladipo injury.
Well, Reg, this Celtics team, they have bigger dreams of becoming the Eastern Conference champions. A big problem was camaraderie throughout the season and issues with them in terms in the locker room. They only had 18 assists, but you talk about their ball movement. Can you tell that there's more of a connected spirit with this Celtics team where they are now?
Brevin, you're absolutely right. And as both of you know, everyone starts 0-0 come playoff time. So whatever happened during the regular season, whatever infighting was going on in the locker room, you put that aside because now it's a quest for 16, to win 16 games and to win a championship. And again, they came out a little bit in a daze, in a fog in that first half, but I really thought defensively they stepped it up in that second half, and it was much better ball movement. And I think that camaraderie will grow. Obviously, the more wins you have, this is a perfect first-round matchup because these two teams have been battling one another for the last 3 weeks. They knew they were going to be facing one another. The question was who was going to have home court advantage. It ended up being Boston. So I think that camaraderie is coming for the Celtics. But you're right, better ball movement and better communication. I think they are much better when they are communicating on defense and creating offense from that defense.
Reggie, appreciate the time. Looking forward to the broadcast. Should be a great atmosphere in Boston. Enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And
right,
don't try to sign me up, all right? I'm not trying to play. Don't try to sign me up.
They need you.
Man, you can still hit a few.
They need
Vince. Vince is the 45-year-old that's out here playing, okay?
There he is, Reggie Miller joining us as we look ahead to game number 2. Al Horford. There was a question whether or not he would play with the illness, getting his sweat on, upgraded to probable. Looks like he will be able to go for game 2. Can Indiana get home with a split?